The Wild and Sacred Feminine deck is finally here. Hello, my name is Annette. This is Project Refine Life. Welcome to my channel and welcome to this walkthrough and pairing of the Wild and Sacred Feminine deck. I have wanted this deck since I first saw it on Dawn Michelle's channel, and it has to be at least 3 years ago. When she shared this deck, it was called the Mother's Wisdom deck, and I wanted it then, but it was already out of print, and I went searching for it, and every time I found it, it was just way out of my price range. When I heard that they were coming out with this deck, I was super excited, and I heard that they were coming out with it in a mass market edition. They were going to kind of revisit some of the cards, and they renamed the deck. So I'm here to share this wonderful deck with you because I truly, truly love this deck. So it's a 52 card deck with a fantastic guidebook. It's about 202 pages, and it's a meaty guidebook, as you can see. The creators of the deck are Nikki DeWart, Elizabeth Margoloon, and it is illustrated by Jenny Shaw. And I really apologize if I said any names incorrectly. Really not my intention, just sometimes the words just don't come out right. So anyhow, it comes in this really nice box. It's a very sturdy box, and it opens with this magnetic closing here. And as you can see, it has this little thing in here, and then the guidebook fits right inside. But I am not going to keep it in here because this is a deck that I'm going to be using a lot. I already know. So with that in mind, I'm just going to keep the guidebook close by and just house it in this little bag right here. And this is just a cheapy deepy little bag that I bought at my local metaphysical store. Now, I know I should buy a nicer bag for it, but I've seen some bags that I really, really like and really, really want, but they're anywhere between $20 to $30 to $40. When I count shipping in, sometimes they're $50, and I would just much rather get another deck. So that's my story with the bags. All right, so let's get into the cards because that's what this is all about. So although these are not in order, they are in their group of suits. And then we'll get into that after we take a look at each and every card. Out of the beautiful chaos where all things are possible, the Wild and Sacred Feminine deck was born to invoke the sacred feminine that embodied life-giving manifestation of the divine that shapes everything into a vessel for the body. This deck illuminates the feminine in her many aspects through animal as kin, nature as home, archetype as exemplar, and divinity as ally. The sources for this deck come from Native American, Hindu, Tantric Buddhism, Jungian archetypes, and the natural world with volumes of myth. The deck is divided into 4 suits: the wild feminine, the elemental, the archetype, and the divine. So let's get into the suits for just a moment, because there is something wrong with the guidebook in that respect, and we'll get into the guidebook a little bit more, but first I want to touch upon this. So the wild feminine here in the book is highlighted by this deep green color, but when you're looking at the deck, it's actually this burgundy color on the cards. So they put the wrong color in the guidebook. Now, the second suit, which is the elemental suit, has this brown color here. And then the third suit is the archetypal suit. So here we are with this deep blue color. And then the final suit is the divine feminine suit. And this in the book is portrayed with this like mahogany or deep red color on the guidebook, but in fact it is the teal. So it's not a big deal when you're working with the deck unless you're really tied to the colors within the guidebook. It's really not a problem. It doesn't interfere at all in any way, shape, or form. Just a thing to be noted within the guidebook. So now, as I stated earlier, it's 202 pages, and each card comes with a full color illustration along with about a page and a half worth of the description within the card. It has the title as well as a keyword on each and every card. It highlights the shadow of each card, and we'll get a little bit more into that. It comes with a poem, and then as I stated earlier, it comes with about a page and a half worth of information or message for each and every card. Now, in the beginning of the guidebook, it states the contents, an introduction, which is pretty lengthy and has some really good information. And as you can see, I highlighted a lot of it. And I did intend to share most of it with you guys, but quite honestly, I have a lot to cover because there's so many great pairings that I really do want to show you guys. Then it gets into 5 unique spreads for this particular tarot deck, which are really nice. So there's the Wild and Sacred Daily Spread. There's the Grandmother Moon, the Path of the Wisdom Spread, the Harmonizing Spread, and then last, the Stillwater Spread. The one that I love a lot is the Grandmother Moon Spread, which is awesome because each one of the 4 cards represents a phase of the moon and reading into that. So I just really like that spread. Really, really great. Now, this deck, as far as the card quality is concerned, it is a little thick in a sense. It's a little cardboardy, but I don't mind. It's okay. You can still shuffle it just fine. If I hold it up against the light, then yeah, I can kind of see through to the design on the back. But again, it's really not a big deal. I have a little card stand here where I put my cards, and it kind of faces the window, the back faces the window. So when I do that, sometimes the light shines through the card. But again, it's really not a big deal. If you're going to be using it where a light is shining through the bottom and you want to hold it up for somebody to see, then it might be an issue. But otherwise, if you have it down against a background, nobody's going to be able to see the back through the cards. And as far as shuffling the deck is concerned, it's not bad as far as shuffling it. And see, as you can see, either my shuffling skills are improving or it's really not that bad to shuffle, because shuffling for me has always been a big deal. Big deal as in like, I can't get it right. Not as in it's a big deal, I must shuffle. That's not the case at all. Some of the things that I really love about this deck is the cultures presented within the deck. There are so many cultures presented, and I really do love that aspect of the deck, as well as these beautiful earthy tones, these deep greens and reds and browns. It just gives you this beautiful earthly grounded energy within the deck. And I do have some favorites here that I'm going to share with you in just a moment. Let me just take those out. Some of the favorite cards within the deck for me are these cards right here. And, you know, some of them I've been able to pull in readings and really looked into the message on the deck. And so for that reason, maybe they stand out a little bit more to me. So Cave is beautiful. Kalima, I love her energy. And then the key word, fierce love, is just beautiful. Crone for wisdom, Lakshmi for abundance, Curandera for healing. Come on, I mean, like that tugs at my heartstrings. Oshun for harmony, Snake for the life force, and this is beautiful. It references that Kundalini energy, and it is just a gorgeous, gorgeous read. Smoke for gratitude, another one of my absolute favorites. When I read through this, I was really touched. Lotus for resilience, another one that has a beautiful message. The Tree of Life for connection, and for this, the art is amazing. As you can see, her arms are reaching up, and they're the branches. Her face is looking up at the tree and all this life above. The moon is looking down on her, and she's grounded into the earth. And the key word is connection. It's just beautiful. Ichel for weaving, another thing that just tugs at me. Pachamama for reciprocity. And then Our Lady of Guadalupe for unconditional love. Just stunning. Beautiful, beautiful cards, beautiful meanings, beautiful keywords. This is really, really great. I love the guidebook for the poems that are very inspiring. And then also another thing to be noted within the guidebook, I know I'm kind of going back and forth here, but in the guidebook, in the very back, there's a note section, which is really nice because it acknowledges the poems that are referenced within the card meanings. And it references the source of the poem. So say you read a poem and want to look into that person's work a little bit more, it gives you a lot of references here, whether it was in a book or some kind of article or something of that sort. Also, in the back, there's further reading. So this is where the information or inspiration were sourced from. And I think that's amazing. I love it when they include that information. And there are a few things in here that are some of my favorites, like braiding sweetgrass. And I think she references in one of them, I can't remember if it's this one or not. She references the medicine cards. So not only books were inspiration for her, but other decks as well, which is pretty cool. So Wild Mercy is another one. So really great guidebook. I really enjoy that. Okay, so let's get to the thing that everybody wants to see, or at least one of my most exciting things that I like to share, which are deck pairings. So for my first pairing, I have the Future Ancestors Tarot. One of my favorite decks is what I always say that, one of my favorite decks, but I think you guys know, like the decks that you see a lot on my channel, because I use them a lot. And this particular combination here really taps into your own wisdom as a future ancestor and also your ancestors' readings. I love the way that the white space within the future ancestor deck kind of opens it up, gives it a little bit more freedom, a little bit more breath. And the tones are very neutral in this deck, the Future Ancestors, but it does tie in to the colors that you're seeing within the Wild and Sacred deck. So I don't know, this is really a nice little combination here. Now the second combination that I'm sharing with you is the Star Seeker Tarot along with the Wild and Sacred deck. The images, as far as the art, to me look very similar, a very similar type of energy within both decks, very connected combination. And I just like the way they kind of play off together. This deck, the Star Seekers deck, is normally a very bright deck to me. However, when put up against the Wild and Sacred deck, this one has a more deepening, a more darker tone when it comes to these two coming together. And it just, for me, kind of balances off that light and shadow aspect. And that is one thing that I did want to touch upon within the guidebook. They state that the deck encourages you to consider the shadow named on each card as well as the light, because the shadow can sabotage your gifts, and it's better to look for the beauty in the beast, recognizing that you are neither wholly light nor totally dark. So I just love that they have you turn into the shadow and work through the problematic areas, but also recognizing the light within you and incorporating. You need some of that shadow in order to work through your light. You really do. And it's not just you can eliminate one and just focus on the other. That should not be the case at all. And we shouldn't as well just be shadowing or focusing on the shadow as well. We really need to incorporate both. Now, the next combinations that I'm going to be sharing with you, I haven't worked with together, but I think that they would work out well together. Just the overall tones and the overall messages that you can receive. And one of the reasons that I like pairing these decks with something, these new decks with decks that are familiar to me, is that you already know the energy of your existing decks. And when you pair it with something new, it really does either take on a different form, or maybe you see your existing decks in a different light. But either way, it just kind of like helps you identify the deck that just came into your collection. How does it play with your other decks? How does it read? Is it making another deck really shine that otherwise may have felt a little dull, just based on the corresponding art? This is a Solero Occulto. This is the second edition, and I do love how grounded the Solero Occulto looks against the Wild and Sacred deck. It has those earthy tones, those yellow, those blacks, those browns, those oranges that are all included in the Wild and Sacred deck. And then with this little bit of bling around the outside, I think it just really makes this combination pop. So I am looking forward to working with these two together. The Textured Tarot is another deck that's been in my collection for quite some time. And you know what? Sometimes I forget that I have this deck, and I don't know why, because it's really, really beautiful. But I do like the way that the overall tones just kind of make the Wild and Sacred deck just kind of pop a little bit, kind of lighten up, to where the other deck brought out the darkness. This one kind of brings out the light within the deck. So, and again, I haven't worked with these two together, but I think that they would be lovely. I really do. I love the colors that are going across the reading, or looking at the cards as they're set out. I think that they would work very well together, and the overall messages and the tones of the Textured Tarot I think would work very well with the Wild and Sacred deck. You know that I had to bring out the Gentle Tarot, right? This is my absolute favorite deck, and anytime that I can pair up a brand new deck with my absolute favorite deck, I'm all for it. But these two decks do share that very nature-based, that idea of just tapping into your deeper self with both of these decks. Again, I haven't worked with these two together yet, but I already know, just based on working with this deck so far, and of course my Gentle Tarot, that they're going to work beautifully together, because they really do have that same general energy. Now this deck, I have worked alongside the Wild and Sacred deck, but this is a new deck to my collection. This is the Be With Your Body Tarot. So be on the lookout, because you're going to be seeing a lot of this deck. I like it a lot so far. And these two, now as opposed to working with something that's very familiar, When I ordered the Be With Your Body deck, it came in, and I have still been working with this one. And immediately I put them together. And it's really not that the art styles are very cohesive. They are different. It does have those same earthy tones within both of the decks, which I do appreciate, those browns, those deep greens, all these deeper earth type tones. But what I love about the combination of these two is that it is tapping into your deeper knowing, trusting your body, being within your body, being within that deeper self. I really like the combination of these two for that reason. It is just all about tapping in. So these two I've been using a lot when it comes to the cards that I pull prior to my classes and how I'm going to proceed with the overall message within my classes, or kind of tapping into what I'm going to focus on within my classes. If I'm going to work into some grounding, or if I'm going to work into connection, if I'm going to work into opening up that heart space, how am I going to work with my practice, and what do my students need for today? So these have been a really good combination. Now, as far as giving you a reading from the deck, picking a card and giving you a reading, it is a page and a half long, so we would be here for a bit. But I'm just going to give you an overall idea and a short little message from the deck right at the end of the overall message, so you can get an idea of how the deck reads and what it's tapping into. So we're looking at the smoke card, and the key word is gratitude. Smoke, gratitude. The shadow is entitlement. Gratefulness is the inevitable reply to all the things conspiring to endow you to their beauty. When we allow the privilege of being alive to really penetrate us, we are participating in the holy moment of life's becoming. So, in the overall message, it talks about that we're all surrounded by these beautiful everyday miracles, rosebuds and spider webs and snowflakes, but that we get to a point where we take these ordinary things for granted, that we really don't come to our knees in thankfulness for these everyday occurrences and these everyday views, which is just beautiful to tap into that gratitude, those beautiful everyday things that we should really be more focused on, and just being in that count your blessings kind of a moment. It also gets into, which I thought was just absolutely beautiful, because as a yoga teacher, I am always focused on getting my students more focused into their breath and connecting with their breath. And one of the messages that I'm always telling them is that, we are so unaware of our breath throughout the day. We just take it for granted. We don't slow down and just thank ourselves for breathing and slowing down our breath and controlling our breath. And this refers to the fact that when you give birth, your child's first breath, that first cry, that opening of the lungs and allowing life in, is so important for a parent to hear your baby cry. And that we're also thankful when we hear that cry, because it means that they're breathing, that they're alive, and that this life has been granted outside of the womb. And then it talks about the fact that through life, we become numb to that. Like, we don't really tap into that breath. And I just was like, yes, exactly. That's what I'm always saying. That's what I'm always talking about. So in here, it talks about that each day is enlivened through the play of reciprocity. How do you express the flowering of gratitude in spiritual traditions around the world? Prayers and offerings anchor the daily practice of gratitude. Smoke is one of the oldest ritual offerings. It can open the doorway of giving and receiving. Smoke purifies the mind and the body to receive from spirit. It also symbolizes a transformation of matter into spirit. From Native American pipe ceremonies to incense-infused Hindu pujas, prayers ride the wings of smoke Summoning the power of smoke to purify and bless, light your favorite natural incense or herbal bundle. Let the fragrant smoke waft around the body and close your eyes to allow yourself to fully receive the gift of the day. Finally, send smoke upward, offering a prayer of gratitude to all the seen and unseen forces that sustain your life. This is what I'm talking about. This deck is absolutely beautiful. I love the messages. I love that they went ahead and took a look at the deck overall when they were approached to coming back with this deck, with revisiting this deck. They state in the guidebook that they took some time, they sent some prayers and really meditated on what cards needed to stay and what cards didn't want to be involved with this new deck, with this new process, which ones wanted to be included in the 52 card deck. So I really loved how they tapped into it. I love all the cultures and all of the ages that are represented within this deck, and renaming it the Wild and Sacred Feminine deck gives it a fresh approach. It's no longer just for mothers, it's just tapping into that sacred feminine energy, not as a gender specific type deck, but as an overall energy in all. So thank you so much. I appreciate you watching and being with me. I wish you a beautiful day from my heart to yours. I will see you later.